The first time I watched my daughter doubt her own joy, it happened in a room full of frosting and laughter. Ava turned 10 that summer. I kept the party small on purpose. No balloon arch, no staged photo wall, no Instagram moment. Just chocolate cake, a few close friends, and the kind of happy noise that makes a house feel lived in. By 4 o'clock, my living room looked like a toy store got hit by a tornado. Kids sprinted through the hallway like it was a theme park. Ava bounced between gifts as if each one was a sacred artifact. She'd been chanting 10 since breakfast, like the word itself unlocked new privileges. My parents arrived together, my dad quiet, and my mom, Linda, loud, in the way only she can be, like her presence is an achievement we should applaud. My sister Caroline came too, polished and confident, with her son Noah trailing behind her. We did cake, we did candles. The singing was off-key, as always. Ava took a dramatic breath and blew out all 10 flames like she was personally defeating darkness. Right after, an envelope slid through the mail slot. It wasn't dramatic, no knock, no announcement, just a thick cream envelope with Ava's name written in slanted, careful handwriting I recognized instantly. Evelyn, my grandmother. Ava's great-grandmother. My father's mother. Evelyn was 88 then. Some days her memory wandered. Some days she was sharp enough to make you feel like she'd been quietly taking notes for years. But she never forgot Ava's birthday. That date lived in her bones. Ava picked up the envelope with both hands, oddly gentle, like it was fragile. She opened it slowly. Inside was a thin silver bracelet with a tiny charm shaped like an old-fashioned key. There was also a small card. For the doors you will open in your life. Love always, Great-Grandma Evelyn. Ava's face softened. She loved meaning. She loved tiny symbols. She slid the bracelet onto her wrist immediately and held her arm up like a treasure. "It's a key," she whispered, smiling. "It's beautiful," I said, because it was quietly beautiful, not flashy, not trying too hard. Then my mother saw it. Linda's mouth pinched. She didn't wait for a private moment. She didn't lower her voice. She spoke in the same tone she used for judging produce. "That looks like something from a dollar store," she said, loud enough for Ava's friends to hear. The room stuttered. A kid stopped chewing. Caroline's eyes flicked up, alert. Ava's smile slipped. I like it," Ava said, suddenly small. Linda walked over and lifted Ava's wrist like she was inspecting merchandise. She turned the charm between her fingers. "Fake silver," she declared. "Old. Dull. Doesn't suit you." Before my brain could catch my body, Linda unclasped the bracelet and slid it off Ava's wrist. It was quick. Casual. Like wiping a crumb from a table. The message was not casual at all. "I get to decide what you're allowed to love." Linda set it down and pushed it away with one finger. "I'll buy you something nicer," she said. "Something that actually looks good." Ava didn't cry. That's what hurt most. If she cried, adults would have a script. Instead, she went still, staring at the pale band of skin where the bracelet had been. I recognized that stillness because I'd worn it at 10, at 16, at 25 every time my mother taught me that my preferences were wrong. I reached under the table and squeezed Ava's knee. "It's yours," I murmured. "We'll keep it safe." Linda heard me and smiled like kindness was naive. "We'll talk about it," she said, which meant, "I'll decide." The party continued because kids don't know how to pause for adult cruelty. But Ava laughed less. She kept glancing at the table, like the bracelet might crawl back on its own. After everyone left and the house finally exhaled, I found the bracelet where Linda had abandoned it. It didn't feel cheap. The charm had weight. The key shape had delicate grooves, made to last. I flipped the charm over under the kitchen light, etched tiny on the back. EH 1956. Evelyn Harper. Her maiden name. A date from before I was born. My stomach tightened. I called Evelyn, even though it was late. She answered on the third ring. "Hello, sweetheart." "Ava got your gift," I said. "Did she like it?" "She did," I said, careful. "My mother didn't." Evelyn gave a soft, dry laugh. Linda never liked anything I chose. There's an engraving, I said. EH 1956. A pause, then a quiet, satisfied, good. You looked. What does it mean? I asked. It means it isn't only jewelry, Evelyn said, voice sharpening. That charm is a real key. My heart thumped. A key to what? To a safe deposit box, she said. Opened in 1978. And it's time you and Ava stop letting other people put their hands on what isn't theirs. My grip tightened around the bracelet. Suddenly, Linda's quick little motion, unclasp, take, dismiss, felt less like rudeness and more like a warning. Go to the bank tomorrow, Evelyn said. Bring your ID. Bring the bracelet. Ask for Evelyn Harper. Okay, I whispered. And one more thing, she added, softer. Don't let anyone teach that child to apologize for loving what belongs to her. When I hung up, I stood in my dark kitchen holding a cheap bracelet that had just turned into something else entirely. A key. And I couldn't shake the feeling that my mother had tried to throw away more than jewelry she'd tried to throw away access. I put the bracelet in Ava's cupcake tin, the one she insisted was for special things, and slid it to the highest shelf. Then I sat at the table and replayed Linda's face when she saw the key. It wasn't disgust. It was fear disguised as taste. The same fear I'd seen when mail came from Evelyn when I was little, when Linda would say, "Give it here," and act like keeping it safe made it hers. That night I barely slept. The next morning I drove to the bank Evelyn named, the bracelet in my purse like it might burn through the lining. I kept expecting to laugh at myself. Surely it was a sentimental story, a quirky old person myth. But my stomach wouldn't unclench. Inside, the bank smelled like carpet cleaner and quiet. I walked up to the counter, asked for a safe deposit box under Evelyn Harper, and placed the bracelet on the desk like I was setting down a passport. The teller's eyes flicked to the charm, not to admire it, to recognize it. She asked for my ID. I handed it over. She typed for a long time, her expression smoothing into something too professional. "One moment," she said, and disappeared into the back. I waited. A second employee appeared and asked again for my identification. He didn't smile. He didn't make small talk. He verified my address, my date of birth, my relationship to Evelyn. My mouth went dry. "What's going on?" I asked. "Routine," he said, which is what people say when it isn't routine. After a few more minutes, a manager stepped out and asked me to come into a private office. He spoke gently, but his gentleness had edges. "We need to confirm you're authorized," he said. "There has been interest." Interest! The word made my skin prickle. He slid a form toward me. On it, in clean print, was the name Evelyn Harper and a line that read, "Secondary heir Ava Mitchell." My daughter's name. My chest tightened. "Ava's 10, I said. Like that explained why this felt unreal. "Yes," the manager replied, "which is why there is also an adult financial guardian on file." He turned the page. My name. I stared at it, as if it might change if I blinked. I hadn't signed anything. I hadn't known anything. Yet there it was, my name tied to the box, not as owner, but as guardian. "And there have been attempts to access the box?" I asked. The manager's face stayed polite. "Someone came in last week with photocopied documents. They claimed to be acting as family representative. They were denied, but it triggered an internal flag." My throat went tight. "Who was it?" "I can't disclose that," he said. "But I can tell you the box is secure. And now that you're here, verified, we can proceed." He used a key from the bank's side. I used Evelyn's key. Together the locks clicked. The box slid out with a soft metallic shush, like a secret being pulled from a drawer. In the viewing room, I opened it. There was no pile of cash, no gold jewelry, no movie-style treasure. Instead, there were documents, carefully arranged, like someone had built a future out of paper. Old stock certificates from a technology company I'd heard of only because it was now famous. A deed packet tied with stringland, from what I could tell, with Evelyn Harper's name stamped in ink. And a thick envelope labeled in Evelyn's handwriting, For Ava, not for debate. My hands shook as I opened the envelope. Inside was an addendum to Evelyn's will and a summary sheet of valuations. My eyes snagged on one number and refused to let go. Estimated current value, $860,000. I felt dizzy. Not greed dizzy. Shock dizzy. The kind of dizzy you get when the world rearranges itself and you realize you've been standing in the wrong place. The will addendum was blunt. The contents of this box belonged to Ava Mitchell upon her 21st birthday. Financial guardian until then. Her mother. My name. No other party may access, redirect, or manage these assets. No, Linda. No, Caroline. No family representative. My first thought was not money. It was, oh, that's why my mother panicked. Back in the office, the manager asked if I wanted a copy for my records. I said yes, because suddenly I understood that records were armor. As I walked out into the daylight, my phone buzzed. My mother's name lit up the screen like an omen. I let it ring once, twice, then answered. Her voice was tight, already angry. Did you go to the bank? I didn't ask how she knew. In my family, information traveled like smoke through cracks, under doors, carried by people who pretended they weren't watching. Yes, I said. You had no right, Linda snapped. Your grandmother isn't even lucid anymore. She signs whatever people put in front of her. She put Ava's name on the contract, I said, and I kept my voice calm on purpose. Calm was the only weapon that didn't leave me shaking. A beat of silence. Then Linda said the real sentence. Caroline should manage it. There it was. Not for Ava, not to protect her. Manage it. I pictured my sister's smile when she thought she was being clever. I pictured the way Linda praised Caroline for business sense, even after Caroline's business sense ended in a bankruptcy she blamed on everyone else. The assets belong to Ava, I said. Linda's tone hardened. Family shares. That's what family does. Caroline needs capital to start over. Start over. Another way of saying, rescue her choices. I'm not discussing this, I said. You're being selfish, Linda hissed. You always were. That old script tried to pull me back into my old role. The one who apologizes, the one who smooths, the one who makes room for Caroline. I could feel it like a hook in my ribs, but then I remembered Ava's face when Linda unclasped the bracelet. So I said quietly, It's not yours. Linda inhaled sharply. Don't make me the villain. I almost laughed. You don't need my help. I hung up. That afternoon, the bank called again, formal and careful. They wanted to document what I'd seen and confirm I understood the restrictions. Then the manager asked a question that made my stomach drop. Would you like to file a report about attempted impersonation? I stared at the wall. Attempted? What? He explained. Someone had presented photocopied ID and claimed authority. It hadn't worked, but it was recorded as a potential fraud attempt tied to a minor's inheritance. I filed the report. Not criminal charges. Not yet. But a report that created a paper trail, because I'd learned something in that viewing room. If people are willing to snatch a bracelet off a child's wrist, they're willing to reach for bigger things. And the bigger things were already in motion. For 3 days after the bank, I pretended everything was normal. I packed lunches. I asked about spelling tests. I read bedtime stories with a steady voice while my mind ran in circles. Ava went quiet in a way that didn't fit her. Not sulking, just smaller. She kept rubbing the pale skin on her wrist like it remembered the bracelet. On the third night, I found her on her bed with the silver bracelet in her lap, tracing the key charm with one careful finger. Did I do something to make Grandma Linda mad? She asked without looking up. My throat tightened. No, baby. Then why did she say it was dumb? Her voice wobbled on the last word. I sat beside her. Grandma Linda has strong opinions, but her feelings aren't your responsibility. Ava blinked fast. She likes Uncle Noah more, she whispered. Kids notice. They always do. I took a breath and stayed honest without dumping adult poison into a child. Sometimes grown-ups play favorites, I said, and sometimes they're wrong for that. Ava swallowed hard. Am I not good enough? No. I turned her face toward mine. You are more than enough. You don't have to earn love by being perfect. You're my kid. That's already enough. She pressed the bracelet to her palm. Can we keep it where nobody can touch it? Yes, I said, on the highest shelf. The next morning the bank called. Their tone was more formal than before. Someone returned asking about the safe deposit box, the manager said. They claimed to be a family representative again. They presented photocopied documents. We refused and documented the attempt. I didn't need a name. My body already knew. Caroline. I stood in my kitchen, staring at Ava's drawings on the fridge, glitter hearts, lopsided stars, thinking about how easily adults ruin simple things. I wanted to call Evelyn immediately, then hesitated. She was 88. I didn't want to scare her. I held my phone too long. A knock sounded at the door. When I opened it, Evelyn stood on my porch, small but straight-backed, her white hair pinned neatly. Beside her was her caregiver, and next to them, a young man holding a folder. I'm Mr. Chen, he said, polite. Evelyn asked me to come as her attorney. Ava appeared on the stairs, saw Evelyn, and ran straight into her arms like she needed proof she was still loved. Evelyn stroked her hair and whispered something that made Ava smile again. Then Evelyn looked at me. We talk alone, she said. At my kitchen table, she didn't waste time. The bank called me, she said. They told me someone tried to access the box. I'm sorry, I started. You did nothing wrong, she cut in. You protected the child. Linda came to my apartment and tried to convince me I'm confused. Heat rose in my face. What did she say? She said you were being manipulated, Evelyn replied. She said Caroline should manage it. As if I haven't watched Caroline for 30 years. Mr. Chen opened the folder slightly, waiting. Evelyn's voice stayed calm, but it had steel in it. I'm not pressing criminal charges, she said, because it's family. But family does not mean access. I sat very still. Evelyn tapped the papers. I'm creating an irrevocable trust, she said. Ava's inheritance will be inside it until she's 21. You remain the financial guardian. No one else. No side doors. And my mother? I asked. Evelyn's eyes didn't waver. Linda gets nothing from my estate, she said. Caroline gets nothing. Your father receives only what is legally required elsewhere because he watched this favoritism for years and called it peace. The sentence landed like a gavel. Then she surprised me with a softer line. Noah is innocent, she said. So there will be a controlled account for him accessible at 21, not through Caroline's hands. My mind tried to do math and failed. Evelyn reached across the table and took my hand. Her grip was steady. I trusted you, she said, because you didn't grab. You didn't demand. You showed up for the child. Mr. Chen added quietly, one condition. You keep the details private. No arguing. No bargaining at your door. Evelyn nodded once. The truth will be set in ink, she said, and the people who confuse control with love will finally meet a locked door. In the living room, Ava laughed again, and for the first time in days, my chest loosened. This wasn't only about money. It was about boundaries made legal, and a child who wouldn't have to beg for what was promised to her. After Evelyn left, I did the quiet work that never makes a dramatic scene, but changes everything. I logged into my banking app and canceled the automatic $200 transfer I'd been sending my parents every month. It had started as help, then turned into habit, then into guilt with a routing number. My finger hovered over the confirmation button. Muscle memory is powerful, but I pressed it anyway. Next, I called Ava's school and removed Linda and Caroline from every pickup list, emergency contact form, and approved adult file. The secretary sounded surprised. I didn't explain. I just said, please confirm they can no longer access my child. Hearing the confirmation felt like pulling thorns out of skin. That night, I moved the bracelet into a small wooden box on Ava's shelf and told her, this stays here unless you choose otherwise. Ava nodded solemnly, like she understood it was more than jewelry now. 2 days later, a certified letter arrived from Mr. Chen's office confirming the trust paperwork was filed. Another message came from the bank. The attempted access had been tagged to an identity impersonation concern, and my earlier report meant there was now a formal case file. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt strangely hollow, like I'd finally admitted something I'd spent my whole life denying. My mother wasn't overbearing. She was a person who believed other people's futures were negotiable as long as she got to negotiate them. Time did what it always does when you stop feeding drama. It quieted. 3 years passed with no contact, no holiday texts, no birthday calls, no just checking in. The silence wasn't an accident, it was a choice. And once the choice was made, my nervous system slowly learned what calm felt like. Ava grew from 10 to 13. She got taller. She got sharper. She still loved symbols, still loved stories. The silver bracelet didn't live on her wrist every day, but it lived on her shelf like a promise. Sometimes she'd touch the key charm before a big test or a new soccer season, like it was a little reminder, you are allowed to open doors. With Evelyn's guidance and the trust paperwork, life became steadier. Not flashy, just safe. I moved us into a better neighborhood with quieter streets and a school where Ava didn't have to share a classroom with 35 kids. I kept our life normal on purpose, because peace is a kind of wealth you don't brag about. Then one afternoon, the doorbell rang. I opened the door and there they were, Linda, my dad, and Caroline, standing on my porch like time hadn't passed. Like 3 years of silence was a quirky misunderstanding. Linda's smile appeared first, too wide, too practiced. Caroline's eyes darted past me into the hallway, taking inventory. My dad stood slightly behind them, hands in his pockets, looking tired in the way he always looked when he was about to let women fight around him. "Hi," Linda said brightly. "We've missed you." I didn't step aside. "Why are you here?" I asked. Caroline laughed softly, like I was being dramatic. "Can we come in? We just want to talk." "No," I said. Linda's smile wavered for half a second. Then her eyes slid over my shoulder again, toward the hardwood floors, the clean walls, the absence of chaos. Her face tightened. She hadn't expected me to be okay without her. "So," she said, voice turning sharp, "where did all this come from?" "That's none of your business," I replied. They tried small talk anyway. Linda asked about Ava as if she hadn't humiliated her. Caroline said she always knew I'd do well, like she hadn't tried to pry a minor's inheritance away. Then Linda pivoted, fast, like she always did when she smelled leverage. "We've had some setbacks," she said. "Bad timing, bad investments. Your father's hours got cut. Caroline's business is in a rough patch." Caroline's lips pressed together. "It's temporary," she added quickly. "We just need help getting back on our feet. Alone," Linda said, finally naming it. "Just until things stabilize." There it was. The real reason they'd found my address. I kept my voice flat. "No," Linda blinked. Caroline's jaw tightened. Linda tried again, sweeter. "We're family." I stared at her. "You weren't family when you took a bracelet off my child's wrist." Caroline's face sharpened. "That was a misunderstanding." "It was a preview," I said. Linda's sweetness cracked. "That money," she spat, "probably came from Evelyn. It should be shared. It should belong to all of us." I felt a cold clarity settle in. "Leave," I said. They didn't move. Linda stepped closer, lowering her voice like she was offering a reasonable deal. "You can't keep it all," she said. "Caroline deserves a chance." "My daughter deserved dignity," I replied. "You chose not to give it." My dad finally spoke, quiet. "Honey, don't do this." I looked at him. "You did this," I said, "by watching it happen." Linda's eyes flashed. "We can talk to Evelyn," she threatened. "We can fix this." I almost smiled. "You can try." I closed the door. My hands shook afterward, not from fear, from the old body memory of confrontation. Ava came down the stairs, having heard voices. "Was that Grandma Linda?" she asked, cautious. "Yes," I said. They wanted something. Ava nodded slowly. Money, she guessed. I exhaled. Yes. She looked toward her shelf where the bracelet box sat. Are they going to take it? No, I said, and I meant it. They can't. That weekend, we visited Evelyn in assisted living like we always did. Evelyn was older, smaller, but still sharp. She loved tea and crossword puzzles, and being right. Before I could mention the porch visit, Evelyn said, "They came here." My stomach sank. "Linda and Caroline?" Evelyn nodded, almost amused. 3 years without a card, and suddenly they remember I'm alive. "What did they want?" I asked. "They wanted to know where your money came from," Evelyn said. "Then they wanted to know if I could change it." I felt bitterness rise. "And?" Evelyn set her teacup down gently. "I told them it's in an irreversible trust," she said. "It cannot be changed." A calm finality filled the room, like a judge's gavel that doesn't need drama. Ava sat on the couch beside Evelyn, listening with the half-attention of a teenager pretending not to care while absorbing everything. Evelyn reached for Ava's hand like it belonged there. On the drive home, Ava was quiet for a long time. Then she asked, softly, "Am I the one you chose?" The question punched me in the chest. I pulled into a parking lot and turned the car off. "You're not a prize," I told her. "You're not winning against anyone." Ava looked down at her hands. "Then why is everyone fighting?" "Because some people confuse love with control," I said. "And because they think money is proof they matter." Ava swallowed. "So what am I?" I reached over and squeezed her hand. "You're the person Evelyn trusted," I said. "That's different." Ava's shoulders loosened a little. "Trusted," she repeated, tasting the word. "Yes," I said. "Trusted. And you don't have to prove you deserve it by being perfect. You just have to be you and stay kind." At home, Ava walked straight to her shelf, opened the little wooden box, and looked at the bracelet like it was a quiet ally. Then she closed it gently, like a door locking from the inside. People love tidy endings. A villain gets punished. A hero gets rewarded. Everyone learns a lesson and hugs in the final scene. Real families don't work like that. Linda didn't suddenly apologize. Caroline didn't grow a conscience. My father didn't wake up brave. They just kept being who they were. The only difference was that they no longer had access to us, and access was the thing they'd been mistaking for love. In the months after the porch visit, Linda tried smaller tactics. A text on Ava's birthday that said, "We miss you," with no mention of the bracelet, no acknowledgement of the bank attempt, no apology for humiliating a child. A voicemail where she cried about family falling apart, as if family was a building I'd demolished with a hammer instead of a fence I'd finally built with a lock. I didn't respond. Every time guilt tried to rise, I pictured Ava's face at 10 smile fading, shoulders stiffening when Linda unclasped the bracelet in front of her friends. I remembered how quickly Linda had assumed she could remove something from Ava's body, like a child wasn't a person but a possession. That memory did what logic couldn't. It made my decision simple. Evelyn's health slowly declined, the way it does when time is honest. Some days she repeated stories. Some days she forgot the date, but she never forgot Ava. When Ava visited, Evelyn would pat the couch beside her and say, "Come here, key girl." And Ava would roll her eyes and smile like she secretly loved it. One afternoon, Ava brought the bracelet with her and asked Evelyn about 1,956. Evelyn's eyes brightened. "That was the year I got my first job," she said. "I bought a tiny safe box for myself because women didn't always get to have things that were just theirs." Ava listened like it mattered, because to her, it did. "What was in it?" Ava asked. "Possibility," Evelyn said, and then she laughed at herself. "And some documents, and a reminder that a life can be built quietly if you keep your hands steady." On the drive home, Ava said, "Grandma Linda doesn't get that." "No," I said. "She thinks steady hands are there to hold her up." Ava thought about that. "So the bracelet is a key because it opens a box," she said, "but also because it opens choices." I glanced at her, surprised. Yeah, I admitted. Exactly. Ava stared out the window. If people try to take it again, she said, I won't feel bad. I'll feel clear. My throat tightened. That's what I want for you, I said. Clarity, not fear. Here's the part nobody puts in the feel-good version of this story. Accepting Evelyn's protection didn't magically erase my grief. I still grieved the parents I wished I had. I still grieved the idea of a grandmother who could look at her granddaughter and choose kindness without conditions. Some nights I lay awake and wondered if I'd become too harsh, if cutting them off made me the villain in someone else's story. Then I'd remember. Boundaries aren't punishment. They're safety. And safety is what my child needed most. Evelyn did one more thing before she passed a year later. She asked Mr. Chen to leave Ava a letter, separate from money and legal language. Ava opened it on a quiet Saturday morning, sitting at the kitchen table where she once watched a bracelet be dismissed. The letter was simple. Some people will call your gifts cheap because they are afraid of what you can unlock. Keep your key. Keep your kindness. Keep your boundaries. Love, Evelyn. Ava read it twice. Then she folded it carefully and slid it into her wooden box beside the bracelet. She didn't cry. She smiled small, steady. Sure, that's when I understood what Evelyn had actually given us. Not just assets, not just paperwork, not just money. Permission. Permission for Ava to value what she values, even when louder people disagree. Permission for me to stop negotiating with people who only show up when they want something. Permission to treat love like a choice, not a debt. So when people ask me, was it okay to accept Evelyn's gifts? I don't answer with numbers. I answer with this. A child should not have to compete for basic respect. A parent should not have to beg their own mother to stop crossing lines. And an elderly woman should not have to watch her legacy turned into a tug of war. Evelyn didn't punish Linda and Caroline. She protected Ava. The cutoff was a consequence of their behavior, not a plot twist for entertainment. And I didn't steal anything by accepting it. I followed the rules Evelyn set, and I did the one job I'm supposed to do. I kept my kids safe. Now I'm curious what you would do. If you were me, would you have filed the fraud report or stayed quiet to keep the peace? If you were Evelyn, would you have cut off your son's household after they tried to grab control? And if you were Ava, would you still wear the bracelet after someone called it cheap? Drop your thoughts in the comments, especially if you've lived through a family that confuses love with entitlement. And if you want more stories like this, real-life boundaries, quiet revenge, and the moment a child realizes they're allowed to be protected, hit subscribe and follow along. Your turn. What would you have done? Ava still has 8 years before she can touch the assets in the trust. In the meantime, she has something even rarer, a childhood without constant emotional bargaining. She knows no one can charm, guilt, or threaten their way into her future. When she talks about college now, her voice doesn't sound like a plea, it sounds like a plan. Sometimes she asks to wear the bracelet to important events, first day of school, a recital, a tryout. We clasp it on together, and I always watch her wrist for that old stillness. I don't see it anymore. I see steadiness. A key doesn't just open a box. It also tells you which doors are yours to lock.